Despite help from U.S. air power, the Iraqi army is still having a rough time retaking the city of Fallujah, west of Iraq, in western Iraq. No surprise, says many experts. The Iraqi army all but ran away from Fallujah when ISIS showed up. And there's a real question of just how strategic that city is to defeating ISIS. Joining us to weigh in now, former U.S. Army Green Beret Captain Ben Collins, man with a lot of experience in that part of the world. Ben, nice to see you here on a Saturday. Big picture for us. Why does this matter to folks in Iowa and Indiana and Minnesota, whether or not the Iraqi army takes Fallujah or not?
Well, Leland, the answer to that question is going to be twofold. One, I think you've got to look to the past. So let's remember that we lost a couple of hundred soldiers, a couple hundred servicemen, mostly Marines, in 2004 when we actually had to go in and take Fallujah twice. So there's a part of our past that I think people in Iowa and Nebraska and across this country should care about, in the fact that we already paid a significant price in blood for this city. So it's really disheartening to see kind of this, to go again.
But are we throwing good lives and good treasure after bad?
Going towards the future, I think that we weren't able to figure out really a military solution. I don't think Iraq military is going to figure out a military solution to this. This is a political solution because of the sectarian violence. So I'd really hate for us to see us get sucked back into this thing for a third time at the cost. And honestly, like you said, this isn't much of a tactical victory for them. This was really a political decision on the part of a body to go into Fallujah first.
Yeah, we're watching some video of the Iraqi army, and these are the guys who ran away from Fallujah a couple of years ago, let ISIS overrun it. These are the guys who have taken months to try to get to Mosul. Ramadi, it took them 6 months to defeat only 100 ISIS fighters. That was with major U.S. air support. Is there any reason to think the Iraqi army is going to be anything other than a bunch of screw-ups, no matter how much money and how much training the U.S. puts into it?
So again, look, if you look at who's in this fight, so you've got the Iraqi, regular military, you've got the Iraqi special forces that are U.S. trained, and you have the Iranian Shia militias. Now, ISIS has had about 2.5 years to prepare the battlefield in Fallujah. So IED emplacements, sniper positions, tunnels, using civilians as shields. The fact is they've relied very heavily on the U.S. trained special forces that have gone in there, and they're exhausted. So we saw it in Ramadi. They're going to do it in Fallujah. They're going to try it in Mosul. They rely on the Iraqi special forces. So the real question is, can this, Shia militias, the Iraqi regular army, can they actually stand and fight? Can they actually, do they have what it takes? Now, the Prime Minister has been, exhorting, how much success it's been. But, so far we've already seen this stall because we know there are still 50 to 60,000 civilians in that city.
Yeah, ground truth there seems to say anything but success for the Iraqi army. You brought up the issue of the Iranian militias that are there outside of Fallujah. They're commanded by Qasem Soleimani, the head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The question is, how big of a threat is it to regional stability for the United States that we're allowing the Iranians to have so much influence now in Iraq, allowing Soleimani, who has American blood on his hands, to essentially become a U.S. ally?
So, it's a humongous concern, Leland. And look, you said, we allow. The sad thing is, we pretty much gave up that ghost, years ago. I mean, Obama's, poor leadership in this on the back of, how much effort we had put in for years, left a vacuum. So, the fact is, the Shia government in Baghdad has relied very heavily on the Shia government in Tehran and Iran. So the reality is, as we've discussed in the past, Ramadi was destroyed. I mean, 60 to 70% infrastructure was gone at the end of that battle. And you're watching just, dumb artillery after dumb artillery being fired into the city.
We got to run, but as you point out in Fallujah, we can never forget the cost that was paid in American blood there and other parts of Iraq now, that, to your point, and pretty much everyone would agree, is a complete mess right now. Ben Collins, appreciate your service and your insights as well, sir. Good to see you.
Thanks, Liam.
Enjoy the Colorado air.